Now, one thing that I'm noticing that he does not talk about is bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, but we would say that is very key to aging in reverse.
So, as our bodies age, I talked about that toxic environment. That toxic environment is made even from very subtle changes in multiple organs as we age. Because as we age, obviously those errors, statistically, we have those errors occurring. And at a certain point, they're going to cause an environmental change. As that scenario progresses over the years, that environment is just very subtly changed and all across the body. And if you take it back to those optimum levels and keep the body optimized, not only hormonally, but metabolically and physiologically for the maintenance of our mitochondria and the mitochondrial health and the production of energy molecules in our body, then all of that helps to reverse the biological clock.
Welcome to Your Infinite Health. Are you getting older?
Are you feeling it?
How would you like to do that in reverse?
We're your host,
Dr. Tripp
and LeNae.
We've run an integrative medicine practice for 13 years.
Together, we have 60 years of combined experience helping clients.
We've helped tens of thousands achieve success in health and live longer, happier lives.
In this show, we'll cover peer-reviewed and evidence-based integrative approaches to creating the health you've always wanted.
We also share professional experience we see in the field every day.
So if you're ready to feel, look, and live your best life, you're in the right place.
Welcome to Your Infinite Health Podcast.
Hey, Tripp, did you have a good week?
Oh, yeah. Sure did.
You were running clinics. So you have two offices, one in Lake Charles, Louisiana, one in Metairie, Louisiana, but you have patients all over the nation because we do virtual consults. But this week you were seeing most of your patients in Metairie. Was there a particular highlight or anything that sticks out from this week that was most fun? While you're thinking about that, I'll tell you that I ordered a book about puns.
Puns?
Yeah, but I didn't get it.
No, that's bad.
So bad.
That was really bad.
I know. I love this calendar that we got you for Christmas, this dad joke calendar. I think I love it more than you do or anybody else. Anyway, anything stick out from this week? Nobody? Nada?
It's all such a blur.
Worked hard.
Yeah, I think it's such a change from doing the oncology and having all these people coming in and feeling good and doing better and achieving their goals.
It is a completely different work environment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know when we were doing oncology, and this is about me, this isn't about anybody else, but I felt stupid if I was asking a patient how they were, because how do you think they are?
Mm-hmm.
And I felt bad if I found anything funny, like if anybody said or did anything funny, I didn't want to laugh because I just felt like the whole environment in that scenario is supposed to be serious and somber. And honestly, looking back, I don't think that's a very healing environment, quite frankly. And I know that back then the patients really wanted to engage and wanted to have fun, but I just felt out of place, I think. Back then. And so having Infinite Health where you can actually get ahead of the curve and prevent cancer and help people not even get to that point. It is a lighter environment. It is more fun. I think it's important to have fun at work. And it's really cool when you can actually see tangible results from your efforts.
Mm-hmm.
And we see results all the time. And now we have a really great tool, right? A genetic age test that actually shows us in real terms the value that the patients are receiving from the tools that we offer for them and that they are actually applying in their life. And on that note, I came across this article. Listeners, you've probably heard of this guy. I think he's a Harvard researcher. His name is David Sinclair, he's been in the news a bit lately talking about how he, through his various choices, has been able to reverse his age by 10 years, according to a genetic age test that he has used. And he attributes his success mostly to, I think he says 90% lifestyle changes. This particular article was talking about 4 smart choices that this gent has made. And then they're like, and 1 questionable routine, which we can talk about, So I think for him, the way that he achieved his age reversal was by focusing on reducing stress and making smarter nutritional choices, consistently exercising. And I think he's a proponent of intermittent fasting and moving every day. I think, quote unquote, he says, just get off your ass. That's a quote. I was just saying that. And was that 3 or 4? I lost my page here. But I think the questionable one.
Is that from the movie Madagascar?
Get off your ass? No, that's about a boy. Show me what you're working with. No. I think I lost my page that I was looking at here, but I think the one that they were suggesting was questionable was this guy had at least 1 MRI. There was no reason to believe that he's like going every Saturday to get an MRI, but he had a full body scan and an MRI. And I think the reason he is doing that is to get information so that he can proactively prevent things. Now, turning away from what he's done, David Sinclair, and turning to what you have been doing for over 12 years, and you recently redid your own age test, and we don't use the one that David Sinclair does. We have another one. Whether or not it's different or better, I don't know. I haven't investigated his, but how old are you, Trip?
68.
According to your birth certificate.
Chronology.
According to your genetic age test, how old are you?
53.
53. So that's really cool. And
yeah, I was just thinking about that. We started talking about the ambiance and the environment of oncology, medical oncology, and really think about when I started intervening on my own health was probably about 15 years ago. And those interventions, as I transitioned out of oncology, probably all of that has had probably a huge impact on the level of stress that I was experiencing also. So that level of stress, the improved diet, I won't say I exercise regularly, but
I think you're getting better.
I'm trying. Yeah. But I think those things and the mind body and being just less stressed from the perspective of those things in the practice itself, that is probably it just stopped. I stopped. The age reversal is comparable to the time that I've been doing the integrative medicine.
That's crazy. Basically, you're saying medicine, when you stopped giving cancer care, you started aging younger.
Backwards.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I want to talk about a couple of things about that. But since David Sinclair attributes that to reducing stress, that's nice. Reduce stress. How is that practical to implement? What is a practical implementation? Because if you are a working parent, or maybe you're a grandparent, maybe you're a caregiver, you have responsibilities, you've got people relying on you, that alone can create stress. So how does one go about?
The challenge is how you conceptualize the information you're taking in your life. I think if you are being stressed, if you are actually feeling like this is a stress.
I get stressed every time I have to pay a bill.
Okay, but that's because you choose that response to the information.
Okay.
So you have to reconceptualize, and that's very judgmental of me, but...
True that, because you don't pay the bills. But anyway, go ahead. Dude, I don't remember the last time you wrote out a check. I don't even want to hear about it, but go ahead.
Okay. So it's how you conceptualize the information that's coming in and how you choose to respond to it. So we know that the emotional response to information that we receive is it occurs much more rapidly because the center of kind of reception of information and the distance to the amygdala, which is the center for emotions, is much shorter and easier to get to, I guess, from a neurological standpoint than conceptualizing and formatting a cognitive thought process to actually choose or not choose an emotion. So initially, there's going to be probably a little bit of emotion that gives us information also about if we like the information or we don't like the information. But then following that, in that brief moment, you're able to conceptualize and cognate based on your lifetime experiences what that information means. And you can actually choose not to respond in an adversarial for your body in an adversarial fashion. And that's the critical importance of the mind-body connection and mind-body optimization, is being able to mindfully choose those responses that allow our bodies to create a physiologic response that is either less or not adversarial and creates a physiologic environment in our body that's healthful and not toxic. And that's the key, is how we interpret the information that we receive. And so if we're saying, oh, well, every time I have to write a check, I'm stressed, that's because you're ultimately choosing that outcome. You're choosing that response. And so that's anxiety, that's fear, that's all of these things that are creating a stress response, since we only have one of two ways of responding, stress or relaxation. So if you're choosing a stress response, a pathway that gives you a stress response, then you're going to have your cortisol and your adrenaline, your noradrenaline, your all of these mediators that are created to help you fight or run, as opposed to relaxing and having a reparative environment in your body and physiologically helping you to actually repair things that are maybe damaged.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people, they just try to avoid anything that they perceive brings them stress or anxiety specifically. Like, I know a lot of people, myself included, don't like confrontation. And so the go-to action is to, in all cases, avoid confrontation. But what you're suggesting is to actually shift the way that you think about what, instead of calling it confrontation, shifting to just information. So one of the things, it's not confrontation.
Because by classifying as confrontation, then you're creating an adversarial image.
Right. Probably avoiding something is not.
And that's fear.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. So I'm not suggesting you, listener, do not stop paying your bills. I will say that one of the things that one of the things that I actually proactively do when I go to pay the bills is I actually ask the money that I'm writing out on the check to come back to me. I just bless it and I ask it to come back to me like 100-fold. And so turning it into giving it a little lighter information and just being thankful. Hey, I have enough money to pay the electric bill, or I have enough money to make payroll, or I have enough money to make the rent, or whatever it is. Being thankful that you actually have the money for whatever you're writing.
Gratitude is key.
Yeah.
Gratitude is really key, because gratitude, if you think about gratitude, that's the emotional equivalent of joy, at least how I interpret it. Gratitude is joy. And so in any environment, fear, anger, any of those guilt, any of those low energy emotions that very frequently come up when we're addressing challenges, as soon as you recognize that and try and transition to, well, what am I grateful for in this moment? What is this an opportunity for? What is this helping me achieve? Or how am I accomplishing good things for myself, my loved ones, my family, whatever? As soon as you transition into that thought process, all of the stress goes away, because there's no more anger or anxiety or guilt.
Gratitude can't exist in the same time space continuum as fear, anger, anxiety. So stress. So you eliminated stress by completely changing your career.
Yeah.
Although that creates new challenges, because you have to hold people accountable. So going on to the next one, Sinclair says eating better. You would say nutrition is one of the 4 pillars. So adopting nutritional choices that actually serve the body would be another way that you
And
successfully.
affirming that before you eat. I'm only nourishing myself with those things that serve my body to achieve extraordinary health. Think about saying that. And as soon as you start looking at the French fries and the,
I mean, today is National Ice Cream Day.
sorry,
That would not be a nutritional choice that is going to help you age in reverse. So generally what you recommend is, from a nutritional component, it's clean eating, it's whole foods. I feel like people overcomplicate nutrition, and there's a gazillion diets out there. They're all unnecessary, basically. And you can tell me if I'm wrong, but if it doesn't die or go bad in 3 to 4 days, it shouldn't go in your body. Single ingredient, clean eating foods. It's kind of a no-brainer.
yeah, it depends on how much free sugar you're getting out of all those things you're eating, because over a certain amount of free carbohydrate that gets into the body is basically, our body only needs 20 to 30 grams of net carb to make the brain work. And that's the only thing that uniformly only utilizes sugar to help it work. It can transition to, for those people who already know, it can transition to free fatty acid utilization. But at the same time, it's the only thing that will make you have symptoms if you don't have enough. But aside from that, everything else will work on free fatty acids and other substrates. So when you get an excess of that amount, then your body has to start putting them in either into storage, or what happens in the interim between getting to storage and just floating around is it goes inside the cells and starts sticking to all the proteins inside the cells. So that makes the proteins, let's just say, it causes them to be kind of sticky and not be able to change their form very well. And changing that form is paramount to achieving the function of that protein or that enzyme that has an activity to help the cell achieve what it needs to achieve. So what happens in that case is those errors then create inflammation. The error creates damage, which creates inflammation. Inflammation then consumes a bunch of ATP. You don't have enough ATP to continue your cell signaling and intercellular and intracellular signaling. And then what happens then is that all of the environment becomes more and more toxic, and part of those cells then turn into those zombie cells or welfare cells that actually consume resources, but they don't participate in the function of the organ anymore. So as that population grows, the reserve decreases, and then ultimately those cells compromise the function of the good cells that are working. And at the same time, they're sending a message to say, hey, come on over here. Let's have fun. You don't have to do any work, really. Just come over here and consume resources with us. Don't do any work anymore. And they're actually sending those signals out via the exosomes that they're spewing out. So that situation is in circular motion. And as you create more and more of those toxic cells, those zombie cells, then the environment becomes more and more toxic. And that just causes rampant aging. And that inflammation is the uniform cause of aging and disease. So I kind of diverged there, but at the same time, in nutrition, just so we understand that excess of anything is probably not good within certain limits, it will depend on ultimately your genome and what you've inherited from your parents and how it responds to those environments and how toxic it will be or how healthy it will be.
Cool.
Sorry about that. I just said.
No, you knew. Nutrition, major component of reversing your age. What about getting off your ass?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
so he talks about aerobic and anaerobic exercise and focusing on getting the breathing rate and the heart rate up for at least 10 minutes, 3 times a week. What do you say?
10 minutes, 3 times a week. Yeah, I want much more than that. I'd like to see 20 minutes to half an hour a day.
20 to 30 minutes a day, every day?
Yeah, 5 or 6 days a week.
5 or 6 days a week. All right. And then what are your thoughts on getting...
Those first 10 minutes, however, take you from a very high risk pool into a much lower risk pool. It's not as good as half an hour or an hour,
So 10 minutes is better than nothing.
Correct.
20 to 30 minutes is ideal. Is that what you're saying?
30 minutes.
Aerobic or anaerobic or a mix or...
mix probably if you're already in good shape.
If you're already in good shape.
I like cardio because the cardio actually helps people trim a little bit better and develops the cardiopulmonary reserve. It increases your cardiopulmonary reserve, which is critical for survival, obviously.
Now, one thing that I'm noticing that he does not talk about is bioidentical hormone replacement therapy, but we would say that is very key to aging in reverse, correct?
So, yeah, as our bodies age, and nothing is more poignant than menopause, but I think we very...
Dudes go through menopause? They go through menopause. It's a thing. Scientists are men. They don't want to talk about it, but I'm telling you, menopause is...
What do you mean?
Anyway, BHRT is integral for reversal.
That's part of the...
I'm really surprised you skipped over
again,
that.
Right? Mm-hmm. What?
I'm surprised that David Sinclair skips over that. It's probably because he doesn't have any money in that game.
I have no idea.
No,
but as
you're not saying anything.
I talked about that toxic environment that is created in our bodies. It makes the good cells turn into the zombie cells or the welfare cells. What that environment, that toxic environment, is made even from very subtle changes in multiple organs as we age. Because as we age, obviously those errors, statistically, we have those errors occurring. And at a certain point, they're going to cause an environmental change, ever so slight though it may be. So as we don't have the same environment inside, physiologic environment inside our body between the age of 18 to 25 as we do when we're 45 or 55, because of the progressive deterioration and the shrinkage of the potential for repair by virtue of a decreasing population of stem cells from starting at around the age of 25, more or less. So as that scenario progresses over the years, that environment is just very subtly changed in all across the body. And if you take it back to those optimum levels and keep the body optimized, not only hormonally, but metabolically and physiologically for the maintenance of our mitochondria and the mitochondrial health and the production of energy molecules in our body, then all of that helps to kind of reverse the biological clock.
Cool. So, did I miss? Oh, mind body. He also, I guess his mind body component is just eliminating stress, but our mind body program goes a little deeper than that, but we don't really have time to delve into that. But I did want to lightly touch on this article that's saying, oh, you should go get frequent MRIs. And that could be dangerous, don't you think? Because you're focused on, I think that's a fear-based thing. I could be wrong, but constantly getting MRIs because you're telling yourself you need to know the information seems like you're subconsciously focusing on what you don't want instead of what you do want. What do you think?
Really, it depends on the accuracy. If you're looking for an objective evidence of an abnormality in the body, a spot somewhere that might represent cancer or an area of inflammation, which you're probably going to feel anyway, the MRIs, the accuracy of an MRI is probably best we can get is somewhere just shy of, really to be accurate, is probably around a centimeter or a little less. And so that's a third of an inch, a third to a quarter of an inch in size. So visualizing anything less is not going to transpire with an MRI. And we wouldn't know how to evaluate it aside from lobbing it out surgically. We would not be able to evaluate a spot that occurred like that. So that's, in oncology, that was a challenge I dealt with almost day in and day out. Would be, oh, we've got another little spot here, another little spot there. Well, if it's less than a centimeter, where one is the accuracy of the imaging in question, or if it's not in question, how do we approach that to if that's the only spot in the body, how do we approach that to make the diagnosis of a cancer? So those questions and getting a routine MRI of the body, let's say even yearly, as a screening methodology, I'm unaware of any real data on that being a useful screening methodology. And for certain screening, a screening methodology, it has to be considered useful, like let's say a mammogram. A mammogram is a useful screening methodology because it can be applied to a population at a negligible cost. An MRI is not an imaging modality that has negligible cost at this juncture. Now, you vulgarize that, or you expand its availability and you make it less expensive potentially, then it's possible that statistically we might be able to justify. But I
wouldn't think an
I don't
insurance
think,
company would be approving.
I'm not sure Dr. Sinclair is talking about people that are just using insurance and depending on insurance.
Even if you're paying for it, like you said, that could be a cost prohibitive. And you're saying not necessarily a necessary thing.
Well, you don't know what you got 1 centimeter nodule in the lung, let's say. 1 centimeter nodule in the lung or a little bit less, aside from having a thoracoscopic resection of that area. And you'd have to lob out a larger area than that 1 centimeter because you're not sure exactly. It's not as precise. I guess you could label it. But the precision that we have, the ability to make those diagnoses is not yet to that point. Although with current liquid biopsies and things like that, you'd have to combine it with other modalities that are kind of bleeding edge and cost prohibitive on a screening basis at this juncture to be able to warrant using that type of systematic approach. So I think if you have the wherewithal and you're able to pay for that, plus the additional testing that would be required to see if there's a malignancy, then by all means, it's a capitalist country, but at the same time, to apply that on a population basis so that it's a screening modality that has a utility in preventing the ravages of severe diseases, then we're not there. We're not there yet.
So to recap, you have reversed your age by 15 years.
Correct.
And in your practice, you have been able to track age reversal. Right now, you have an average of what?
About 9 years.
So reversing age for your patients by up to 9 years, that's your average.
That's the average, because I think I'm actually towards the upper end of that. I think I have a couple of patients in the 17 to 20 year range also.
So we agree with Sinclair that he focuses on stress. We focus on mind-body, a mind-body program that incorporates stress reduction, but stress is just one thing in that whole mind-body approach. Obviously, nutrition, hyper important, making smart choices and not engaging in National Ice Cream Day, dairy people and ice cream people. And then exercise, hyper important. David Sinclair does not talk about bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. We do. It's a component. It's important.
Metabolic and physiologic optimization.
There you go. So David Sinclair totally skipped over that, but that's something that you need to embrace as well. Did I miss anything? No, I think that's basically our 4 pillars approach to health optimization, age reversal. We can track those results.
Well, what we also do is those people who already have sustained damage for musculoskeletal damage or kidney damage, we use regenerative modalities to actually help correct those within the confines of what the budget allows.
Yeah, so Sinclair didn't go into that either, and we don't have any more time. But listener, I hope you found this educational, entertainmental, and valuable. If you have any questions or would like more information, please visit our website at yourinfinitehealth.com. And until next time.
Thanks for subscribing to Your Infinite Health. I'm Dr. Tripp.
And I'm LeNae. Until next time, feel it, look it, and live it.